And I want to say this for those of you that feel sometimes out of place, even within your own communities. I've felt like that a lot growing up. I grew up in a Latin American household. My parents of conservative values, beliefs, and I kind of highlight that in my previous videos or in some of the videos where I don't know where I stand, or I don't really care too much for religion or much at all for religion, especially organized religion, personally, due to the fact that I grew up in a Christian household and I see how it's been used when all is said and done to advance colonization, which I don't agree with. Naturally, not to say that is the only reason. I have my fair share of sentiments regarding misogynism, which is obviously very evident within religions when all is said and done. So, you know, I've been able to just make my own conclusions or observations on things that I see that are just not right. If I believe in equality, not only racial equality and the unity, most importantly, of the Black and brown community, I also believe in equality, not only for communities of color, but also genders within these communities of color. Because if there is one hindrance in place, if there is, you know, something that does not allow for equality across the board, then am I preaching or in alignment with equality? So naturally, that's a journey of its own. But I was raised and born and raised in a Christian household, and I find that, you know, coming, or I guess not coming here because I was born here, but I remember when I was younger and in kindergarten, strangely enough, they asked me a question in English and I had no clue, or I think I knew what they were asking, but I didn't know how to respond in English, so I answered in Spanish, right? And you know, it's crazy to think that my first language was Spanish, and then all of a sudden here I am, and I find myself to be rather rusty with the Spanish language. Yes, I can speak it. I'm glad that I've still maintained that accent, but you know, it's been a very difficult journey in the sense that you are Latin American origins, but then you feel like you lost so much of those roots, right? Of that identity. You feel kind of caught in between, like, this country, which is in my case, it's the USA, and another, you know, part of the world. And I think I have mentioned this many times before. My parents are from 2 Latin American countries, so that even makes it more difficult because it's essentially in kind of 2 different regions. So when all is said and done, it's just like so many things where it's just like, wow, it's a difficult journey to have, especially as and it's interesting because I learned that there is different terms for individuals that have been here different generations, so I don't want to butcher that. I've always viewed myself as a first generation, you know, as I'm the first person that's been born and raised here, and not to disregard the fact that, like I've said in many videos, you know, and many Latin American people, especially those of indigenous or, you know, native roots, right? We are from these lands, so we must not forget that. But yeah, I've had to navigate a lot of spaces, and often I really felt it difficult to be understood, given the fact that my parents were very conservative, very, very overbearing, and didn't necessarily give me the freedoms to just live, I guess, your typical, I guess, like teenage life. I wasn't allowed, for example, to go to senior prom or what other thing? It was a senior trip. Yeah, I never experienced those things. So here I was, like, navigating this more or less isolated life with in a country, especially that that in many ways, even my parents, when, you know, still conforming to the Christian faith and whatnot, and coming into that, especially here in the US, because they come from the Catholic faith, which is, I guess, a lot of people might also not know the differences. It's insane how, you know, when all is said and done, there's typically this association that Christianity is just Christianity, point blank period, but there's so many denominations. And I'm someone that is very interested not only in geography, but in religion and social issues and all of these things, but I'm also, naturally gravitate towards religion, which I just mentioned. But yeah, it's been difficult with the fact that when you're young, I feel like a lot of people long for acceptance naturally, and I think that's a lifelong thing, which I express also in previous videos. I find that or more so, why like POCs or communities of color conform and assimilate to, not only the US, but a lot of Eurocentric ideas and beliefs, is because they want to be accepted, right? They want to be part of a community or group, and let's not even begin with a community and group that has power. And unfortunately, selfish greed, selfish wants, people seek out self-interest and aren't really aware of the fact that self-interest does not benefit all of humanity and society, and it's not for the betterment of all existence. So that's more of that's something that relates to ethic, where your values lie. But just navigating that in itself, was difficult, and seeing how my parents took religion to an extreme level, in my opinion, where there was also, and these things I find that, as someone that's is in the healthcare and moving towards the healthcare sector, but also done healthcare, I don't believe in, I don't believe in doing harm to your body. So when all is concerned, like, I find that alcohol and a lot of these other things that aren't necessarily beneficial for you and aren't really benefiting one and one's overall body, I am in agreement with that. But my parents, for example, didn't believe in alcohol, actually adapted a lot of like Judaic Islamic views and perspectives in many ways, when it concerns like, no alcohol, no pork, things like that. So it was interesting and not surprising actually, but I always had friends from other religious backgrounds and other cultural backgrounds, because a lot of times individuals that I came across, especially, and I don't know if this is any different in other places, but I find that the US, for the most part, I don't even know how to put it, but it's more of like independent, individualistic, not really be mindful of, and essentially more, when all is said and done, embodies very much of the liberated, right, ideas. And it's like, here I am, someone that was born into not only a Latin American family, but also a very religious Latin American family, and a family that, monitored, how I lived or how I should live, or kind of dictated how I should live. And here I was, this became my life, this became my identity, this became what was normal to me. So to me, finding people with similar lifestyles was super important, because I didn't want to, conform, assimilate to something or be someone I'm not. If you feel like, you're in a place or in an environment, or you're navigating life and you are experiencing those very things where it's just like, man, like no one understands me. No one, sees exactly, what my journey and struggle is. Just know that being yourself is the best version of yourself that you can be, period. So don't try to compromise who you are just to have, individuals accept you. Those that accept you will accept you for who you are, period. And most importantly, you want to be comfortable. You want to feel safe. Find people that you feel comfortable, that you feel safe with. And, that's exactly, how it was when I was growing up. I found and met individuals, fortunately, that lived very similar lifestyles, which is great. But in the process, I felt like I didn't interact, or I wasn't, right? I wasn't connected so much with those of Latin American origins, those that took pride in being part of Latin American origins, but also those that questioned a lot of the ideas set forth and put forth by Western societies, right? This idea to conform and to be accepted by the white man or white woman. I felt like it was, and it has been, such a journey and struggle. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that, where it's just like, let me know if you feel by any chance that you also have difficulties feeling welcomed, accepted by your community, or you have a lot of difficulties even being understood. And I feel like, our communities, and I can hope that our communities can break free of colonization. I've mentioned this previously in other videos as well, that I feel like our communities, and be that those of immigrant, those of us with immigrant backgrounds, or those of us that are immigrant as well, are still realizing or learning. I feel like many are starting to learn or realize that what America has been selling and what people have thought, maybe on an international and global scale, because that's all they put out in the media, that this place was amazing, and we, or many people, thought they would be living the same lives that people that have colonized this country have been living, without realizing that the reason why they've been able to live the life that they do is because they've managed to oppress our communities. So when all is said and done, that realization, I feel like, is either still taking time to sit in, or it is for our next generations, for those of us that are aware, to already know that and understand that reality. So I only can hope that our communities can be more self-aware, can come into that knowledge and understanding that the reasons why there is so much oppression, there is so much racism, is because, well, colonization has impacted present time. And those that benefit from colonization, select white individuals, or some white individuals, or many, I have no idea, I do not keep count, but I just know that individuals that have benefited from it, whether they be white adjacent or just like to pander to colonization, want to continue to have those privileges and hold on to them. And they do not care at what cost that comes. They do not care if it comes at the cost of your freedoms, your rights, and your ability to live life to the fullest. So when all is said and done, we need to be mindful of that. We need to continue talking about our experiences and not be silenced. So stay strong, keep, sharing your experiences, your story with other people.